Hi, this is Robert with OutbreakNewsToday.com. And on Friday, September 13th, I spent the day at the 4th Annual Amoeba Summit in Orlando, hosted by the wonderful folks at the Jordan Smelski Foundation. And it was a great lineup of speakers. And I had a chance to interview a handful of them, little short 5 to 10 minute interviews on particular topics that they're involved in. So the first one we're going to take a look at is with Dr. Jennifer Cope with the CDC. So I hope you like it. Okay, now I'm joined by Dr. Jennifer Cope. She's a medical epidemiologist and infection control physician with the CDC and one of the premier experts on free-living amoeba in the United States. Dr. Cope, welcome, ma'am.
Thank you.
Nice to finally meet you. Naegleria fowleri, pretty rare, and I think you'll still agree. Mm-hmm. Now, since the first cases were seen in 1962, where are we at now, 50 years, almost 50 years later?
Yeah, so you're right. We've been tracking, actively tracking Naegleria infections, even though they go beyond that. When we look retrospectively, we've found cases going back into the 1930s, but we've been actively tracking since 1962. And so current data goes through officially through 2018 right now, because we're still in 2019. So we're at 145 cases. But we have had 2 so far this year, but we won't finalize that obviously till the end of the year.
And are we seeing, I see the numbers with the CDC's 0 to 8 per year. Mm-hmm. That's the range. Mm-hmm. We're not seeing an increase in incidence, though, are we?
No, we definitely get asked about that as people are paying attention to like our changing and warming climate. Is this something we're going to see more of? It's something we're definitely concerned about and we're tracking, but as of right now, we haven't seen increasing numbers of cases.
Right, and that really leads me into my next question. The part of your presentation, you talked about that in the past decade or so, more cases are being reported in northern states.
Yeah.
Do we know why?
Yeah, so this is just part of our tracking. So while we haven't seen increasing numbers, we are seeing some changes. So one of those changes is seeing cases further north than we typically did before, and that's been really, as you said, in the past decade or so. The other thing we're tracking is how people get this infection. So it's always water exposure, but traditionally it's been in these, it's been primarily in untreated lakes, rivers, streams, that kind of water. But in recent years, we've documented cases that have been associated with tap water use, nasal exposure to tap water. We don't know for sure what's causing the northward expansion or the changes in the types of water we're seeing people get exposed to, but certainly, a warming climate is of concern with an organism that thrives in warm weather.
Sure. Now, you also presented on cases of PAM globally, which I found pretty fascinating. And there's like 3 countries that account for more than half of them. Mm-hmm. The U.S., of course, Pakistan, which has seen about a dozen a year in recent years, right? And Mexico, you mentioned. Mm-hmm. Why are the other states or the other countries not reporting very many?
Yeah, I think those 3 countries reflect are countries that have an awareness and an expertise and knowledge about Naegleria fowleri and the ability to diagnose the infection. So it's not that the risk is much higher in the United States and Pakistan and Mexico. For other countries, particularly in the developing world, there's a lot of stuff they've got to deal with. Sure. They've got an HIV epidemic and TB and malaria, and so unfortunately they just don't have the resources, and they're kind of got other things that are obviously taking their attention and they're trying to work on, and so it's tough for them to make these diagnoses.
Concerning exposures, though, do we see a difference between the exposures in the United States versus, say, Karachi, Pakistan? Here it's swimming in lakes and all that. What are we seeing in Karachi? Do we know?
I don't know for sure, not being the epidemiologist there. What I understand and what I've seen reported is that they do see some swimming exposures there as well, but they are also seeing the exposures related to their drinking water because of the Islamic ritual of doing cleansing before prayer that does involve a nasal washing. And so I think they do think a number of their cases might be related to that practice.
Right, and I've also read that they're having issues with chlorination in those cities too.
Yeah.
And lastly, let me just ask you, what's your latest work in the CDC? What are you doing in the free living amoeba world right now?
Well, our primary focus is on tracking and identifying these infections when they occur. And as I talked about, last year in 2018, we identified a case in what we've been kind of calling these novel recreational water venues. So I feel like that's kind of dominated the last few years for us with the 2016 Whitewater Center case, and then last year with the Surf Park case. They're these water venues that just don't fit the traditional definition of a swimming pool, so they're not, or swimming pool or water park or splash pad that typically fall under some sort of regulation at the state or local level. And then on the other hand, a completely natural lake setting that no one expects that there's any kind of treatment going on there. So it's this middle gray area that we're finding, where there's undertreated water, and then there's multiple opportunities to do activities where water gets up your nose. And that's probably been one of the major things I've been working on, as well as some analyses of data looking at environmental and geographic factors, and then trying to put together this global series.
Well, good stuff. I appreciate you stopping by. Dr. Jennifer Coate, thank you.
Thank you.